Hi, friends, and welcome to the Makeover Factory, a place where we blend the practical and the spiritual so that you can create a life that you love. And today we're going to be talking about relationships, and that is a big topic. So, I'm going to try to take the spiritual approach to this, and it may be something that you've never considered, but hopefully by the end of this particular talk, you're going to walk away with a new perspective and maybe even a new approach to your current and your future relationships. So, I am blessed to be doing life with some amazing people. I love what I do. I'm a certified life coach, and I get calls from people all the time seeking advice, or maybe it is a person that I've worked with. And so I am constantly being fed new material or new topics to kind of unpack or approach from the spiritual perspective. And yesterday was one of those days. I received a call from a beautiful spirit, someone that I've known for a long time, and I just think she's absolutely amazing. And she was just calling to kind of catch up. And during that conversation, she shared with me that she had met someone. And when I got off the phone with her, it came to me that, you need to do a talk about relationships from the spiritual perspective, because most people, when they are entering into a relationship, they don't really think of it from that broader perspective. And I think it's very, very important to understand it from that particular position, so that when things get rocky or when things don't go your way, you don't get frustrated, you don't fall apart. So, we enter these bodies as spirits and souls, and we are here on a journey to becoming our true and full selves, right? So the process of being a human being really is about our growth process. We are supposed to be moving up the scale when it comes to growth. In essence, who you are at 10 years old is not who you're supposed to be at 20. And who you are at 20 is not who you're supposed to be at 40. So we are supposed to be evolving in this particular life, but it does have a larger spiritual context. So as we evolve here in this earthly realm, our souls and spirits are also evolving, and that is the purpose of our human existence. We are here as souls trying to become more, trying to move up the scale, becoming better, becoming more aware, becoming more conscious, becoming more loving. We are supposed to be doing that as souls and spirits. And so we come into these human bodies for that purpose, for evolution. And when you think about it, relationships are a big part of that process, right? When you're in a relationship with someone, it doesn't even have to be a romantic partner. Those are the times that we are oftentimes challenged the most. And so that is what they're for. Many of us are coming into relationships thinking that they are for our comfort, and they really aren't. Relationships, whether it's a relationship with a child, with a parent, with a coworker, they serve as material for our evolutionary growth and development. And so many of us are coming into these relationships with the wrong idea. We think that relationships, especially with the significant other, are there for our comfort. And do not get me wrong, All relationships are here for our enjoyment. I mean, how special is the relationship between a mother and a child? But let's be clear. They aren't existing solely for our comfort. They are existing so that we can grow. So in that particular example with a mother and a child, a mother learns unconditional love as soon as she becomes a parent. As soon as she holds that baby in her arms, she knows a love that she's never known for the first time. So it is serving her evolutionary process. With the marriage, it is for our comfort. I've been married for a long time to a wonderful human being, and he and I have a great friendship. But it is also fraught with challenges because he's a human being, I'm a human being. Sometimes what he wants doesn't coincide with what I want, and so there is a constant navigation or shifting that is required if you're going to maintain a healthy relationship. And I think that so many people come into relationships thinking that this is for my comfort, that I want a significant other so that I can feel comfort or have fun with it. All that's great and all that is wonderful, but that is why so many relationships and marriages end in divorce, is because we're coming into it with the wrong perspective. If you come into a relationship with the understanding that this is not about my comfort, that this union is about my evolution, about me evolving and moving up the scale and becoming the fullest version of myself and transcending things that don't serve me, things like anger, things like jealousy, that is what a relationship is really for. Now, we get to enjoy it, of course. Of course we get to enjoy the relationship, but that's not its purpose. And so when you come into a relationship and you don't have that spiritual understanding, when things get rocky, your first instinct is going to be to cut and run. You're going to want out of the relationship. I think divorce rates, the last I saw, were 40 to 55% or 45 to 55%. That's a lot. And so you do find that a lot of people, they just go from marriage to marriage, relationship to relationship, and it's because they don't have the spiritual understanding that this is about my growth. So when things get rocky, the thing that we're supposed to be doing is asking ourselves, who do I need to become in this moment to move beyond this particular situation? So that spiritual understanding, it changes everything. You know, when you go into it from that perspective, when someone, your significant other, your child, your parent is doing something that you don't like, oftentimes it is a reflection that there is growth work that is required on our behalf. And it is important not to miss that moment, because oftentimes, and I see this, and I'm sure you have too, people will get out of a relationship and go to another relationship and they just carry the same baggage with them because they didn't do the work. You don't want to do that. You want to figure out what is being asked of me in this moment, no matter how hard it is. What is being required of me? Sometimes it is a situation of patience. Sometimes it is a situation of unconditional love. Sometimes it's a situation of courage. And I'll give you an example. A woman has gotten into a relationship with a man that is maybe abusive, or is not treating her the way that she should be treated. And we've all seen it. Why does she stay with him? He's beating her. He's put her in the hospital a couple times. what's going on with her? Why doesn't she get it? And it's because the growth work, which is so necessary, is not being done. Sometimes when a woman finds herself in that situation, the growth work is to find the courage to leave. The growth work is to find the courage to stand on your own without the support of another human being. And oftentimes, as women, we miss that. And I've missed certain things in relationships. So I am no way blaming any woman who finds herself in that situation. I'm just saying that oftentimes there is growth that needs to happen. And so a woman should ask herself, what is being required of me in this moment when a man is breaking my jaw? Who am I being asked to become? And oftentimes she will find that her work is really courage, that her work is really self-love. And so these particular relationships are showing up, like I said, again, for our own evolution. And the question that we must ask ourselves in these moments is, who am I being asked to become? And if we do that, sometimes you don't have to leave a relationship. Now, in situations of abuse and things like that, that more times than not is a ghost situation when you're being physically harmed. But not always. And that is up for each individual to decide. Some people can do the work and figure out maybe this is a situation of self-love. Maybe this is a situation of courage. And when they get it and they begin to stand fully in their own power, when he goes to raise his hand again, she says, no, you will never, as long as I live, treat me that way. And I've seen people go on and live another decade or 2 or 3 where they just move beyond that particular situation. It's like, you know what? When we were younger, he was always putting his hands on me. I've seen it work. And so being a human being is complicated. And so there's no judgment here, because all lessons are good lessons. If you are in an abusive situation, you really have to turn inward, and you have to listen to your inner voice. You have to listen to your guides, and you really have to ask yourself the question, what is being asked of me in this now moment? Sometimes the only door that needs to open is for you to leave. But that is not always the case. And so I bring that up just so that we understand that this work is complicated, and it is individual work. You know, and I've been that person on the outside looking in and saying, you know what? The only answer for you right now is to go. But that may not be the answer. I've since evolved beyond that. And so now my approach to those situations is to guide a particular person to their own answer, to walk them through their own discovery process and get them to understand, what am I being asked to do, to become, how to grow in this now moment. And it's oftentimes an individual answer. Now, if you're listening to this and you're in an abusive situation, get to safety first. I don't want anybody to get confused by what I'm saying here. Get to safety. And then start doing that eternal work and ask yourself, now what happens for me? And so I say that only to say it's an individual question. It has to be answered individually. The growth process is an individual one. What is for this person may not be for this person over here. And to also just reiterate that being a human being is complicated, and relationships are complicated. But if we come to them with the spiritual eye, when things get rough, when things get rocky, when that person is no longer who you thought they were, or no longer who you want them to be, turn inward and ask yourself the question, If this relationship is to contribute to my evolutionary process, what do I need? What is it here to teach me? What is it showing me right now about myself? And sometimes, as a husband and as a wife, you can turn it around if it's going bad. And I will also say this: it gets difficult if the partner is not also committed to their own growth process. And my experience has been, I don't like to say always or never, because there are always exceptions, but it has been my experience that it is really, really difficult for a person to kind of save a marriage on their own. Like, it really does take two people. But it really does depend on what the situation is. And let me just throw out this example. And I know I'm kind of saying a lot, but I hope you're following. Let's say, for an example, a person has an issue with anger. And the partner is doing things, and the partner is not being... The partner's just being a human being. Let's just put it like that. Sometimes in a relationship, people just aren't going to act the way that you want them to act. And so, I don't know, maybe they're not taking out the garbage, or maybe they are between jobs, who knows. But let's say the other partner has an issue with anger, and so they're flying off the handle and really just becoming impossible to live with. That really is that person's own work. And so sometimes it really is about two people, but sometimes in some situations it really is just about us. How am I showing up here? Am I really open-minded and open-hearted enough to say, this is my issue and this is something that I got to work from the inside? No human being is perfect, and I need to do the work on my anger. And when you do the work on your anger, oftentimes you can find that you two can join up and just continue on, as a happy partnership. I've seen it even with infidelity. Now, personally, infidelity is my deal breaker, but it's not everybody's deal breaker. And I've seen people heal from that and go on to have loving partnerships. Again, you have to have someone that is committed to their own growth process. If they're hurting you, they have to be willing to see that, and they have to be willing to evolve themselves, not just for the sake of you. They have to be committed to it for themselves, because if someone changes just for another person, I find that it just simply rarely is long lasting. It has to be a situation where someone sits down and says, you know what? I need to be a better human being in this moment. And I find that when people do that, when they have that level of commitment to their own growth process, you can find lasting change in a marriage. And when you have two people willing to do that, it really does become a situation where there's nothing that you can't handle together. And here's the thing, two souls growing, that's how it's supposed to be. You're bumping heads on particular issues. This person is taking away from that, this is who I need to become. And this person is taking away from that, this is who I need to become. That is really what the marriage partnership and bond was supposed to be about. And that is why it is so sacred, because it triggers in you who you need to become. It evolves you as a soul. It evolves you as a human being. And so we just aren't coming to it with that particular perspective. We think it's all about our comfort. He caters to me. He buys me bags. He makes me feel nice. She makes me laugh. She cooks for me. None of that stuff really matters. It's much, 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 much deeper than that. That relationship is a part of your soul's journey. And when you come to a relationship from that perspective, you're going to find that everything